Hello, everyone. Today it's a very nice day to start to have a conversation regarding the B2B sales. I know that many people are interested for this event, and maybe many more will join us for the YouTube channel. But again, we'll have not a formal conversation today, we'll have a conversation with more practical experience from the people that really know a lot and work with exactly they can bring for us more practice knowledge than it can be maybe done with just theoretical part, but from their experience. And let me maybe first introduce you to Rokky. He's a chief revenue officer at Innovecs, and this company is really nice. So Rokky, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and what exactly you're doing in Innovecs? That will be useful to know.
Sure. Thanks, Yuri. Well, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm chief business officer at Innovecs. I'm responsible for business development, sales, client success, strategic partnerships, relationships, any M&A, corporate development type stuff there as well. Been with them for almost 3 years. Prior to that, I owned a company here in the U.S. Actually, a global company that was in the U.S. and global. And I sold that in 2017. I think I sold that before I went to work at Innovecs. And even going further back, I was a GM, group vice president at Digital River e-commerce company in the software markets for all their SMB platforms for software, non-software, and their physical on-demand media production business. So I've been at small private companies to very large publicly traded companies, and ready to have the conversation with you guys today.
Okay, thank you so much. And
excuse me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rokky. I really appreciate that you have a time for us and for this conversation. So moving forward, I have Ian Beyton. He's a business developer at B2B. So Ian, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself so we can move forward?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me part of this panel today. It's a real pleasure representing the UK here. So my name's Ian Beyton. I work for a business called B2B. We're a global business specializing in electronic data interchange, I guess. My background is for pretty much most of my career, which spans over 20 years, business development. Specializing in very much a hunting role, net new logo acquisition, right from sort of smaller enterprises right up to large global enterprises. I currently work for B2B. Prior to that, Rokky and I had some interaction together, which was fun, and Yury as well at Innovecs. Some of you on this panel, this webinar will know Innovecs very well, great company. And prior to that, I worked for another global organization who were headquartered in the UK with a footprint all over Europe. So that's a little bit about me, and great to be here today, and looking forward to some good interaction.
Okay, so we have maybe a team of people that can do any complex deal with just one hand. So I really appreciate you for your time also, Ian. Let's move forward, and today we'll have a conversation about US and UK. Of course, we will touch something about changes that's related to the post-COVID situation with the B2B sales process, etc. And I think that your practice knowledge is very useful to have, because you know exactly what's happening right now in UK and US from the business side perspective, from the deal side perspective, and know exactly the context of their customers. And that's very useful to have, because a lot of people that are trying to approach this topic, it's very complex. And what I found out that it's only 8% of people that can close the deal. And just a question to you guys, what do you think, why it's so low? Why so many people that trying to approach sales role, but only 8% can close the deal?
Rokky, do you want to kick off with that one?
Wow, sorry about that, guys. I was on mute. 8%, that's the figure, huh? Only 8% can close a deal?
Yeah.
that I don't want to hire one of those only those 8%. I do want to hire one of those 8%. I don't want the 92%. Sorry. And trust Ian was part of the 8%. So yeah, I worked with Ian before. Ian mentioned that before. Ian can close the deal. So wow, I guess I never would guess it would be that low. I would probably think it depends on personality, on style, on industry. And I always say this, guys, and I've been around for a long time, and I've read a lot of books on selling, and selling DeVito and different sales medic and different sales methodologies, and you know what? I would say there's no one size fits all, and maybe that's part of the problem. Yuri is somebody reads a book and says, hey, this is my sales methodology I'm going to use, and maybe it's not relevant to their personality. Maybe it's not relevant to their industry or their product or service that they're selling. I certainly think that 8% number seems pretty low to me, and I guess to my comment about I don't want the 92% of that might be a management problem, because I don't think I would ever get myself into a situation where I'm hiring where 90% of my salespeople can't close the deal. That'd probably make me a bad hiring manager, or leader. If that's the case, I would honestly have to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? What is the company doing wrong? What's the processes that are there that aren't happening to make that 92% of that group successful? I think it's our role, my role, Ian's role. I think it's our role as leaders, sales leaders, to try to make the people that you're working with and that you manage successful. I don't want the accolades. I don't want to say, hey, Ian, do this, and then I take. No, it's I want to help Ian be a better version of Ian. I want to help Ian close sales. I want to help where I can, and I'm not the you never really want to be the smartest guy in the room, and I won't claim that I am. You want to hire good. You want to hire good people. You want to hire people that have that passion in their eyes. And maybe at the end of the day, this is more of a sales thing. Is be able to sell based on passion, understanding your customer, understanding your product, understanding what you do, and then understanding what's good for you and how you can make that customer feel like they want to buy from me or Ian or whoever. In summary, what I'm really getting at is I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. You can't read a book on medic sales or selling DeVito and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. I think I said this when we talked last time. It's like sailing. When the wind changes direction when you sail, you have to adjust your sail. You have to adjust the jib to base that on how that wind is going. And if you're able to do that, maybe that 8% will go to 10, 15, 20, 30. And then if you have the leadership and the people in place to help you be successful, that number, 8%, really is that's a tough pill to swallow for me as a sales leader, because if your organization has only 8% of the people can close the deal, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too, 100%. I mean, it seems a very low number, and I wonder, that mean average, how that data has been collected, because in any organization, you're going to have your rock stars, you're going to have your people that are closing at a very, very high percent. And then you're going to have your medium players, your average sales guys, and then you're going to have your underperformers. The secret, as Rokky alludes to there, is really the leadership team getting up that mean average across the field, and you'll only do that by working closely with your team. So if you're not understanding why a deal has been lost, then really you're not giving full justification to your team around you. And when a deal is lost, there can be the reality is that everybody's got to be transparent and honest. Was it down to something which the individual made a big mistake on? Did they drop the ball, and was there something there? And a good leader will not berate you and whip you around the head. A good leader will sort of sit with you, calmly dissect the process, and then help you learn from the fail. We've all heard that some of the most successful people on the planet have failed more times than they've succeeded. But the secret is to not keep making that same failure. So it is a low number, but I think that there's something in there where you've got the realization of your rock stars and your average sellers and your low performers to arrive at that 8%. But Yeah. I'm the same as Rokky. I wouldn't want to take on too many of those guys who are in the 92% bracket.
I guess just to follow up on what Ian was saying a little bit too is, I think process makes a difference.
Yeah.
Ian mentioned he just mentioned you have to understand, be truthful, and look yourself, understand why you didn't close a deal. And I think that's just as important as why you did close the deal is just as important as why you didn't close the deal. And you got to be able to take your retrospective and say, okay, here's what we did well here, and stick to that process. And there's no golden ticket. Everybody, we get that, but things are different. But have it repeatable, have it consistent, have it so even your rock star, your middle, and your lower performers can all work under the same process, and hopefully step up the lower performers and the middles to be able to be a higher performer based on a repeatable, consistent process that you can measure.
Yeah.
And also, like, to add something also, that I know that's from my experience with Rokky, you mentioned people across the globe as your international sales team. And Ian, I remember the time then you are closing the deals when the customer ready to wire money even without any agreement. So to be honest with you, like, that was for me, it's very high level, very great level of the salespeople that involve with the customer, that they are ready and willing to commit for something that even not so secure for them. But in my opinion, that's a good point also. And what I see right now, there is a lot of people that are trying to approach this topic from CE region. So trying to, to build this process, trying to build trust with customers, and, trying to even not work with the same culture that you mentioned. But what do you think, what are the main failures in terms of the perspective of the people that are trying to approach this topic from abroad, like, for example, from Ukraine, from the region right now, and just trying to build this international sales just by themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to jump in with this one to kick off with. I think the realization is that you must try and have an appreciation for the territory that you're trying to sell into. So the UK, for example, is very, very different to the US, where Rokky sits. It's a very different dynamic. It's a very different approach, and certainly what I've experienced from European or further companies trying to get a foothold in the UK is that it simply doesn't translate. Whether that just be the consultative approach being too firm, and the British being quite a sort of reserved bunch of people, don't like that sort of aggressive, oppressive approach. Not that I'm suggesting that everybody has that approach, but you have to have a very, very deep understanding of the territory itself. And even from looking at a small country like the UK, there is sometimes a misunderstanding that if you're selling into the south of the UK, it's very much the same as selling into the north of the UK. It isn't. That there's subtle nuances and cultural differences from the south to the north of the UK, and I guess that and unless you're ingrained in that, or you've had a lot of first-hand experience of again, sometimes failing and understanding why you failed in those sales processes, that's something which I think any in particular, with probably got a good audience here from the Ukraine, a Ukrainian company coming into the UK, my advice would be get people on the ground in the country, and employ some natives, because just little nuances, it could be a conversation or anything, could just be accidentally offensive to somebody in the UK.
Exactly.
Yeah, just to follow up on with Ian, boots on the ground, for sure, is what I would say a prerequisite for any international company coming to UK, US, whatever it may be. Ian pretty much said it. I mean, just the nuances, the culture, everything. It comes down to Sales at the end of the day, okay, I'll make some exceptions if you're selling a pencil or something. There's some differences, but when you're doing a consultative sales or solution sales, it comes down to one thing, and honestly, Yuri, it doesn't really matter what your price is, what your terms are, what your product can do. Honestly, that has nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, it really has to do with how you, Ian or me, whoever, how you make that customer feel. And if you make them feel like you're the company, you're the person, they have confidence in you, the trust in you, then the pricing doesn't matter, the terms, they don't matter. It's how you make them feel. And I personally follow up on what Ian said. Unless you're understanding that personality, that culture, that person, you probably can't make them feel the way they need to feel to purchase from you, unless you have an understanding of who they are and what they live every day and things like that. So boots on the ground, I think, is important. And that's not to say that every role has to be, boots on the ground, domestically based. Not every role, but certainly, some intel, some customer facing roles to provide the feedback, to be the face of the company. I certainly do agree with Ian that being in country is makes a difference.
It can be the crazy things, like there's no way I could sit with Rokky right now and start to talk to him about American football or baseball or basketball, or I wouldn't have the first idea. I know a little bit, I know a generalization, and I'm sure in the same way that Rokky, and if these come into a when we're building rapport with a prospect or a client that we've landed and we're trying to expand with, and we're getting in front of different personalities within the organization. Some people just want to sit and talk about football or clothes, or the pub, or and there's just this and a sense of humor. A British sense of humor is quite quirky and different to some other parts of the world. So
Tian's point. I know Tian's point. I'm not sure if Ronaldo went to Manchester United or Manchester City.
There you go.
I know it's a Manchester, but I know it's one of them.
That's nice.
And if you were talking to a blue or a red, you would be right on the back foot there. It was Manchester United, by the way, Rokky. So.
Okay, thank you.
And everything was dramatically changes with this post-COVID situation. I think that all of your explanation, that's very nice to, of course, to use for the company that has like already established business and they know something more than just to have specific than saying that they are trying to approach some markets. But again, like what I feel also that this sales culture that you right now explain, there's not so many people that are trying to teach to people the same sales culture, that you don't need to be over pushy about your proposal about something, rather to maybe know in person and exactly find out what exactly they are struggling with. And I know that it's like maybe it's very complex to understand, but what I hear right now that people are rather open to people that's willing to help them than just selling something. And what I feel that you made and mastered this piece, of course, but maybe you can give us some sort of examples of last maybe deals or conversation with customers, maybe not mentioned about exactly who they are, but just to give us some bright lights about one of the deal that you've been involved with, and you think that it's very nice to know about that. For our audience, just wondering, maybe you can.
Well, I don't know if I can come up with any specifics off the top of my head, but I will tell you this: that you are 100% true. Is if you can solve a customer's problem, if you can convince the client, the customer, that you can solve their problem, I think you'll get the meeting, whether it be in person, whether it's in person or it's virtual or whatever it is in this COVID environment, whatever it is, you'll get the meeting, but you won't close that sale unless you can convince them afterwards how you can achieve their business goals. Mm-hmm. Solving their problem doesn't necessarily mean, okay, I can doesn't mean you're going to help them achieve their goals. Then what is their goals at the end of the day? If you can get a salesperson virtually or in person to understand what are their goals in your company, your product, your service can help them reach their goals,
Yeah.
then I think you have something going there. Then you have a good chance of be able to close a deal.
And you know what, Rokky, that's a really interesting point, and that almost swings right back to the first question of this webinar, Yuri, about the 8%ers, because I think what's happening there, you know, and it just sort of made me think something. Rocky's absolutely right. So with a consultative approach, you're obviously doing lots of questioning and everything else, but you know, once you've established what the problem is, if too many people, too many sales guys and girls rush in to then try and close. You know? But it's maybe too soon in the process. So you've just got to be patient to pan out that you're absolutely, you know, you're hitting all the bases, and you're getting lots of yeses, and we're agreeing, bingo, that solves my business problem. That's what I wanted. And Rock is absolutely spot on there. And I think that might allude back to this 8%.
Yeah, it probably does.
Or should we say 92% failing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I remember sometimes when I used to have a conversation with some sort of startup founders, and what they do always, and I think that what they do is wrong completely. When they meet customers, they're trying to pitch them. And the pitches can go like for 30 minutes from the like overall meeting. And like for me, it's like the red light when we just need to close the conversation and just leave this meeting, because like there will not any chance that we can, you know, have next step for these customers. In your opinion, what should be done, you know, rather like in another way than just, you know, pitching the customers about your product and services?
Well, in the UK, we have a term for that, and we call it tell, not sell. So basically, when you're pitch, you're just telling. You're saying, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. Well, come on, you know, it's only relevant if it's hitting a concern that the business has. So my advice would be to just reverse engineer that a little bit and go in and you just got to ask a ton of questions. You know, obviously you've done your research beforehand, you know what you're going into. You should have a good handle. If that lead has been fed to you by an SDR or a BDR, they will have done some qualification on the call to understand, you know, a little bit about the business, the dynamic of the person you're talking to, et cetera. But then it really does come down to a smart bunch of questions. And I don't know whether you can necessarily teach that from a book. It comes with experience, but with good leadership. I know certainly, you know, and I'm not trying to praise you to the nth degree here, Rokky, but when I worked with Rokky, Rokky was a great guy at actually sort of, you know, helping you understand the type of questions that you should be asking applicable to a relevant sector. So he had a deep understanding of a particular sector, and he said these are common problems that sector is encountering at the moment. Try to ask these questions, and you know, I think that's my advice. You know, just reverse engineer it a little bit.
Well,
in the foot of the customer. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say the same thing that you were just saying. Just switch roles. Take into a second to consider the shoes that your person you're talking to is standing in, and what Ian said is, I probably didn't know anything more about supply chain, healthcare, financial services than anybody else did in the conversation. I always just tried to look at it from the customer perspective and say, if I was in this role, what would help me get me to the point where I can buy? What would help me understand what Innovecs can provide, or Ian's company? What would help me get there? That's the way I always try to look at it, from, you know, if the shoe was on the other foot. And I think, and this is going to be really, I actually read a post today on LinkedIn from a guy that I used to work with, and it was pretty good, actually, really good, frankly. And at the end of the day, he said this, you know, be real, be honest. Most clients can smell, I'll use an American term here, BS a mile away. Be real, be honest, because they can. Clients can sniff out BS, and if you're just sitting out there pitching, you know, then you're losing your realism, your honesty, and your credibility as you go. And there's a time, guys. There is a time that, and I've seen it happen. There's a time when you can talk yourself out of the sale.
Absolutely.
So you have the deal on. Yuri, you mentioned this earlier. Maybe it was an Innovecs thing that you have somebody in a spot where they're willing to sign a purchase agreement before they even know what your price is. And okay, guys, you got it. Be quiet. We're done. Call's over. Let's stop. Let's not talk our way out of it. But I do think most customers can smell BS a mile away, and they appreciate honesty, appreciate reality, and at the end of the day, if you can show some compassion, or not, maybe compassion's not the word, but just some real understanding that you're there to solve a problem and to help them reach their goals, and be that person to be a trusted advisor, if you will. I mean, we're talking B2B here. We're not talking B2C. We're talking solution sales, service. We're not talking gadgets or widgets. We're talking a little bit different thing. But if you can, if the client can look at you and go, I can feel really happy with knowing that Ian has my best interest, my company's best interest at hand, and frankly, you can look at the whole life cycle of a client. If you sell the client once and you get one sale, good for you. But let's look at the whole life cycle. Look at the recurring revenue and what else can Ian upsell them on later on, or what are services that you can have that you can do. And I don't think just doing that on a reach out and give you the sales pitch for 1 hour or half hour on a video call, or that's a relationship thing where over the course of that 6 months, the first relationship, you have a client kickoff, it goes well, you involve the right people, you get your whole team involved, that the customer really feels that this team cares about my business. Ian's team cares about my business, cares about making me look good to my bosses, and that type of thing. Then you have a long-term relationship. And I've always said this: selling to an existing customer is a heck of a lot more profitable than selling to a new customer, because it's faster. It's faster. It's easier. Your time to actual revenue is faster. So I'd rather have a client calling me and go, hey, what else can you do for us? What else can you do for us? That's always a good thing. And it takes a team to do that, though. Your whole company has to do that.
It does, and also, I think we both read the same post, Rokky. By the way, I think I read. I think I know whose post you read on LinkedIn, and there was something else within the content of that as well, and that's really, really important to anybody selling a technical solution, and that is that I would say I can converse with most people in a senior executive room, but if somebody starts to send me down a rabbit hole and sort of gets really highly technical, and I just sit there and say, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And it's a trick question. Boom, you've lost the room and you've lost your credibility. You are far better to say, do you know, that's a really interesting question, or something like this as a reaction. I'm going to put my hand up. I don't know the answer to that, but I know a man who does. Let me speak to them, or bring them into this meeting at another time, and we'll address that issue. Rather than yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can. And that's a fall down of a lot of startups to a degree, because there's this sort of not desperation, but keenness to get the sale. You're going to struggle to fulfill that. You do yourself a disservice. And as a sales professional, also, if you are back against the wall and you're beyond your technical knowledge, very sorry, I don't know, but I know somebody who does within my organization.
Sure, that's a nice point. And just so you know, I remember the situation also, to just give you an example. The cultural mindset, of course, it's very important for sure. It's 100% right. But I will say what I see a lot, that people try to convince someone to buy something, and that doesn't work well at all. Because of right now we are online. No one else, can convince us to do something. But what I've seen, that sometimes companies and, of course, service companies can, help to build career for your customer. For example, I know exactly this case when someone go to their service provider just as an engineering manager. starting out some sort of small project, then rise to the CTO level, switch to another company, and still have the same vendor through all the career paths. And that means that they are built this relation type scene that's even way tighter for them than just to have this paperwork and something.
Yeah,
well,
I think yeah. Go ahead, Rokky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what the point you're making is summarized pretty fast. It's a small world.
Yeah.
It's a small world, and it's funny how some of this stuff comes back. Matter of fact, I just had a conversation with our CEO today about a small world and in some situations we're in. I mean, don't burn any bridges because you never know where that CTO is going to be next year. And it's just COVID is maybe this is a twofold answer too, but I think to a certain extent COVID is hurt. The implication of what I just said, small world, but at the same time, it's also made it a smaller world because of the work from home environment, the hybrid models, the virtual thing we're doing right now, all that I think is actually closed, made the world a little bit smaller. I can have a conversation with you in the Ukraine, and Ian in UK, and we're all like we're sitting around a table. So that has brought the world closer together. It might not be to the point of my personality, my style, the way I like to manage relationships, and maybe more the personal level might not be my style. But we talked earlier before this started. I'm like anybody else. I have to learn. I have to evolve, and hopefully I'm doing that as well. So
yeah, and I think there's another point, Yuri, which is very nicely connected to what you just highlighted there. Of course, don't burn any bridges, don't upset anybody. You never know where they're going to spring up again. But I think there's an interesting thing that's come off the back of the change in the environment that we're now in, so i.e. COVID. I think a lot of companies have realized, and I'm sure Rocky's seen an upturn in sales and activity at a digital transformation company like Innovecs. We certainly have at B2BE. We've seen a lot of net new business logos coming on board with us because businesses have realized that they need to increase efficiencies throughout their organizations. But the dynamic of whereby it used to perhaps be a 1, 2, sometimes 3 touch point sale, there now seems to be this consensus sale environment where more and more people are coming into the decision-making process. So you've got to be a friend with everybody, you know? And that decision that goes up to board, the senior board are looking at the next levels down and taking this consensus opinion. What do we think to Ian then? Is this the right solution for us? Why is it the right solution for us? And they're getting lots and lots of viewpoints coming in, whereby I wouldn't say pre-COVID completely, but there does seem to be a shift in more of a consensus-based sale. Rokky, would you concur with that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous point, Ian. Maybe that's to my comment about bringing the world closer together. Virtually is maybe it's made it easier to involve more people in the hierarchy of decision making in companies because there's not that personal connection there, and so more people are involved. I think that's 100% spot on. That it has very much become more consensual in buy-in from every level of the organization. I just was doing a deal with a large telco company here in the U.S. and experienced the same thing from the procurement level to the IT level to their senior decision makers. That I was went through the rounds with every level of the organization and honestly, Yuri, I can tell you today that it was a great success. We signed the contract, we got it done, but it took 10 months.
Wow.
It took 10 months, and it took 10 months and 2 price increases that we experienced that time. So I had to come back with new pricing for a couple different times. But we got it. We got it. We signed it, and we're looking forward to moving ahead in that deal. But it took a long time, and I think maybe the more people involved in decision making, it probably lengthens the sales cycle somewhat. Especially during the summer months. I know I'm being trivial here when I say this, but Ian's you guys on that side of the ocean take all of August off, so so sometimes it's hard to get things everybody on the same page in August. So it is a longer sales cycle right now. I think it's a longer sales cycle just because of what Ian said. I don't honestly, Ian, see that changing though. I think it's maybe here to stay.
I think 100%, and I guess anybody who's on this webinar that's sort of a startup organization who is moving through their sales career, just take note of that comment that Rokky and I have just made, because a lot of deals will fall down if you've got a single touch point. If you've got a single touch point, and then you're each month reporting on your sales forecast. Oh yeah, I got this great deal. It's it's 100 grand. It's going to close. And then that one person that you're talking to either leaves the organization, or it's this consensus opinion, and you haven't bought in with everybody, so the decision is never going to be made with that one person. So be mindful of that. If I could give a top tip for today, that would probably be one of them, actually.
That's very nice. That's very nice, and I will ask for your top tips, because I have a specific question for that. But anyway, what I feel right now, that it's for sure, it's a real right time to build the relations. And you're completely right about that, because we right now in really very, very, very small world, because everyone know each other. And what I know exactly from my students, that, for example, one of the company that I also talked to, they try to look for the salesperson for the senior level position, and find out that the numbers is completely different. And they can start maybe from the 250K up to $500,000 salary annually. And just a question to you guys, what do you think? What is justification for that? And in my opinion, of course, there will be justification, but just wondering, if it's standard format for right now for UK, for US, so what exactly it's a composition of that, and how to maybe understand if you are dealing with average salesman or maybe professional level sales.
Well, let me start by saying, if it's a US or UK based company that's offering 500K, $500,000 base salary, can you introduce me to that group first?
Yeah, and after you've introduced Rokky, can you introduce me as well?
That seems a little steep. I would suggest, at least from my knowledge. I mean, we're out there hiring. I'm out there. I'm interviewing right now for VP of sales roles, for business practice leads, and right now I think the market's a little bit higher than standard. I don't know what's standard nowadays. That's I was going to say normal, but that doesn't really fit either. So, what is the new standard? I guess that's a question that I think we'll figure it out over the next probably year, as to what that new baseline is, I guess. I don't think 250, 350 for your I don't know, VP of sales role type thing, account executive role, sales hunter roles. I think that's inflated, in my opinion. Now, am I afraid of any compensation packages that include obviously a base salary plus a variable component that's uncapped in terms of a commission or bonuses, whatever, based on performance, and actually pay that out at a very high level? I have no issue with that, and I think that's very common. And can that get you to that 350, 450 OTE type scenario? Sure, in certain sectors, in financial services, yeah, probably for sure. In healthcare, probably for sure. Maybe not so much like in supply chain, maybe not as much, because that's more of a legacy business that doesn't seem to be there in the digital transformation area yet. But there's a lot of opportunity there, because it's changing. So I don't know. All I say, if you got somebody that's going to pay $500,000, $500,000 for a VP of sales, I'm signing up.
The idea was the following, that the person that was in the process of the interview asked for this type of compensation.
Okay.
And it was like, was very, very dramatic, the situation. And when I first also heard about that, I also was, what? I'm also ready to go in this company.
Yeah. And I think you have to get it into perspective as well, because if you're a startup or a scale-up business and you're looking for a head of sales, whatever title you want to give them, I think you have to sort of, when you're going through that recruitment process, ask yourself the question: if this guy's demanding $500,000 as a base salary, what type of deals is he used to closing? And if they're multi-million-pound deals that your company is just not ready to deliver on, then you're missing the point. You don't actually need that person, do you? I'm with Rokky. That does sound like a tremendous package, but I do think that talented individuals who can open doors, who can close business, who can land and expand, the expression I use, so bring a client in and then expand them out. I do think that there is certainly in the UK, we're seeing an uplift in those rates.
Sure.
I read an article recently about a guy who was advocating 6-figure salaries for SDRs, but let me qualify that. What he was talking about there was really compensation versus outcome. So maybe putting a small base salary in, or a relatively small base salary at the market rate, but then compensating around the number of meetings, whether that number of meetings can land into a deal, whether the SDR can have any involvement in pushing that deal through, and then compensating on the close of the deal as well. So again, the right type of people, the talented people, the hungry, the hunters, why not compensate them? To Rocky's point, but I don't think you should give it all at the front end. I really don't. I think you should be rewarded for the business you are closing.
Yeah, and that's relative to all. I mean, you have to take as Ian just said, you have to take that into consideration. What your product is, what you're selling, the ticket price, the ticket item. All that has to come into play. But I don't see that being something that companies are just paying up front in terms of a base salary. The 500 side of it. Now the 250, that 253 could I could see that. I could see that for sure in some geographical regions in the U.S., like maybe not in the Midwest or in Denver, Colorado, but certainly on the coast, the East Coast, New York, California, for sure. For senior, networked, proven professionals that not, I wouldn't necessarily just call them salespeople. I'd call them business professionals that they sell, but they know the industry as well. They know the trends. They know the pain points. They can speak the language of banking and financial services. They can speak the language of healthcare. They've been inside of the major healthcare companies like Medtronic or things like that. They've been there, done that. If have those relationships, for sure. That's doable. But I think if you go back to maybe maybe non-executive level and talk about your mid-level, mid-senior level, I think the comp has to be a strategic percentage of base and commission for an OTE that is agreed upon before you bring somebody aboard. I mean, I don't want to bring somebody aboard and think in my head their OTE, annual OTE is 250, but in their head they're thinking 100, or other way around, they're thinking 600. You better have that understanding up front as to why your base salary is and here's your commission amount, your percentage, or how commission's paid. I don't care what it is, based on whatever, to get you to your OTE. And if there's a good understanding of that, of where you stand and where what the expectations are to get to that OTE, then I think you can have a successful relationship. If you're not on the same page going into it, that's when you're going to have some some issues, people coming back to you going, hey, this is not what I expected, or I thought I was getting paid on this, or I need to make more money, I need more salary. You're better off, connecting the dots of these issues before you start and have your comp plan pretty much laid out and understood why it is. And one thing, and this is just maybe not even the question, but maybe back to my number. Ian wanted to make a big point. I'll make a big point. As a company dealing with salespeople or paying commissions on salespeople, be good at it. Don't screw with a salesperson's commission. have it black and white. Have it black and white. You know what it is. They know what it is. It's reported on a monthly basis. So the salesperson knows exactly what it is. The finance department knows exactly what it is. It's paid when it's supposed to get paid, and everybody's happy. You start screwing with the guy's paycheck, and he thinks he's not getting he or she is not getting the full shake of what's going on. Then your salesperson is already halfway out the door.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And just to also just wondering, what exactly you're thinking that changed a lot right now with the COVID situation? Because we talked a lot about that with people that are trying to approach this region that you're right now present. But in terms of your exactly visibility right now, what exactly been changed, and what do you think will be the next step from the business and sales perspective for that?
I think from a hunting perspective, there's quite a few factors that have changed, but I think probably the number one is people working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about the prospecting process, if somebody's working from home and you've got a really strong gatekeeper, or even worse, you've just got a recorded answer message on the main office number, you've got to think to yourself, well, how am I gonna approach this person?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the number one dynamic that's changed for me. Then you've got to look at what I call combo prospecting, which any good business development person should have in their toolbox, and that is not just be one facet. So don't just rely on the phone, use email, WhatsApp, all the other social media, LinkedIn that you can use. But if you think about email, for example, how many more emails are coming into people's inboxes nowadays because of COVID? So you've got to cut through that noise when you're making your pitch and make, again, coming back to our earlier point, a very compelling case via an email. So you're not talking to anybody. So you've got to grab their attention. So you've got to show that you understand their business. You've got a good idea of some pain points within their sector. And also, I try not to sell within that first email as well. But what I do try to do is to ask somebody to reply to me and agree to a meeting. So sure. That's the big dynamics that's changed to me. People working from home, it's a challenge.
And just a small so guys from the audience, you're thinking right now you want to ask something, that's the right moment. So please go ahead with your comments. We'll have some time for you guys also. Okay.
Just to expand on what Ian said. You know what? It's not just sales. It's the whole. Every job has changed because of the work from home environment. Does that make the sales role harder? For potentially it does. But to me, what I think it does, it makes us have to change our strategy. It makes at Innovecs, and I'm not going to give you all the secrets away here, but at Innovecs, we coined it the new digital era. We couldn't do marketing the same way we used to do it. We couldn't use the same tools that we used to do 2-3 years ago. Maybe it's video. Maybe it's just anything that's a little bit more creative. We're not attending the events that we used to attend. How do we actually get the same ROI out of us events that we're not attending, that we have to do virtually? There's different things you can do. So it's new. Maybe it's not new anymore because we're probably 1.5 years, 2 years into it, I guess. But companies had to adjust. Companies have to change. Individuals like me and Ian had to change how we prospect, how we connect. and we have to do it a little bit different. So it's just it's a matter of figuring out the things that work and the things that don't. And
you know what would be a really interesting stat, Yuri, if you can pull this from anywhere, is closure rates pre-COVID versus closure rates post-COVID, or during COVID. I reckon there'd be a big decline because of what Rocky's talking about there. We've all had to change the dynamic of how we try and engage with other businesses, from a marketing, from a sales, from a operations, from the whole gambit. So
and that's actually, Ian, I don't know if you read that whole LinkedIn post I read, but I'm going to actually reference that again, because it's a former colleague of mine that I respect for his business development acumen, and he's good at it. Was, maybe it's not as much of a one-on-one thing anymore in sales. It's sales can now be considered a team sport. Is what I want. And utilize the people that you have on your team from product marketers and managers. And I go back to marketing, because when I said new digital era, we really had to change how we marketed since COVID. So utilize the people that you have on your team. Utilize the experts. We talked about this earlier a little bit. I've been successful in software as a service or IT sales for the last 25 years, and I'm probably the least technical person Ian knows. So it's not about you knowing everything and be able to answer every question. Use the people you have around you. Use the company resources you have. Use your executive staff that you have. Use the things that you can have, and that's just smart, and it's different maybe than the way people did it 2, 3, 4 years ago, when you could just walk in the door, or somebody might pick up their phone. And one of the things, and I'll stop, I know we're running short on time, but we've talked about this as well, is back to Ian's point, the work from home. 3 years ago, people arranged their daily life around going to work. You got up in the morning, you took the shower, had breakfast, whatever you do, and you went to work. And then you came home, and then you went to your kid's soccer game, baseball game, cricket event, whatever it was. You went to that. Now it's just completely flipped on the head. Now people arrange their work around, because it's work from home mostly, they arrange their work life around their personal life. So maybe they're going to go work out between 10:30 and 11:30 in the afternoon or in the morning, or maybe they're doing a kids game in the middle of the day, and they work weird hours. So I do think that what's changed is what Ian said. Because we're working from home, I think it's a little. You just have to adapt to now the new normal and what's in front of you.
Yeah. And also, to let you know, also just with the COVID, I have a situation when, of course, there's numbers of the vacancies for the salespeople right now is on rise, and everyone trying to find people, and there is not so many professionals in the market. And what I did, I tried to find out the person that match SDR skill set and then coach her. And what I did, I found out the girl that was the event manager for the biggest SaaS conference in the region, and just tell her that you are a SDR, the perfect SDR, because you know everyone, and you can try to approach them with just a friendly conversation. And that's all. And just wondering, in your experience, what exactly you are looking for when you are trying to talk to salespeople that you are interviewing with, and what the number one skill that you are looking for from them?
Wow.
No, that's wild. I mean, I guess that would change between SDR, account executive, whatever that really is. So, sure. I mean, from an SDR, in my book, from an SDR, that's somebody that knows how to set meetings, knows how to break the ice, knows how to set meetings, knows how to get the meeting. Account executive, they know how to close. They know how to close a deal. They know how to build relationships. But maybe a combination of both of those things, and maybe we say, what's the number one thing? It's never going to be I don't think for me, it's not going to be reading the resume. It's going to be, looking in their eyes and seeing the passion and seeing, the personality they have to do that. But at the end of the day, what is it? It's probably never, whether you're an SDR, you're an AE, a VP, it's never stop prospecting and growing your pipeline. at the end of the day, you got to keep growing. You got to have the willingness, the dedication to keep growing your pipeline, no matter what role you're in. If you go from SDR to an AE, or AE to a VP, or up to the CEO, keep growing your pipeline. And now, that might look a little different. I guarantee our CEO is still growing his pipeline through referrals, through contacts in his network, but it's still all about growing the pipeline. So at the end of the day, you still have that. So, and is that an easy thing to do? No, man, that's hard, because it's work. At the end of the day, sometimes you're tired. You go, I don't want to make another call. I don't want to send another email. So I kind of think, to me, it's more about passion, and it's more about your personality and the willingness to wanna actually be engaged and keep that pipeline going. And after that, it's again, there's smart people everywhere, and hopefully a lot smarter than me. And the number one thing, though, I don't think you're going to find it on somebody's resume. You're going to find it on what their commission's been like for the last 10 years, and what their passion is. And I can talk to Ian. I haven't talked to Ian a lot lately, but every time I get on the phone with Ian, I sense the excitement and the passion that you have to do what you do. And that's why I think that's what's made you successful at it is and okay, I'm going to combine that with a bunch of other stuff. I think you're a real guy. You're sincere. It makes me feel good. All that type of stuff. But Ian, you got that. I don't think Ian's resume could tell me that at all. But when I talk to Ian's body language could tell me that. His tone of voice can tell me that. I would love to say, when I sit down and have fish and chips with him and look in his eyes, they tell me that. But or just a pint. We'll go have a pint too. So the same thing.
We're gonna have a pint. Yeah.
So I don't think it's all about resume. It's about people make organizations successful, and you might even have to move people around. We were talking about this today. Your company has to evolve, and maybe if you have hired this really good person in this role, but the company changes a little bit, maybe you got to take these really good people, involve them into the different roles that will still support your company and your efforts that you're trying to do. So I get passionate about that, because I actually want to make everybody that works in my organization with me, I want to make them as successful as possible. And I want to help them. Okay, I said that wrong. I can't make them successful, but I want them to be successful. Yeah. And I want to help them do that in any way I can. And that might be understanding what they're good at, understanding where they're not as good at, where they need help, what role they fit into best. And that's actually in sales too. SDR, account executive. You can feel that from somebody and what they're best at. So I'm sorry, way too long of an answer.
No, fine. Yeah. What about you?
I know. I mean, I would just pretty much agree with everything that Rocky said. I mean, an SDR, they have to be so resilient as an individual, because it's the school of hard knocks. You could be making. I mean, some companies have a matrix where they might ask an SDR to do 20, 30, 40 calls a day, and you might make those 20, 30, 40 calls a day and get absolutely not one meaningful conversation. Sure. And then you've got to pick yourself up, brush yourself down, rinse and repeat. So from an SDR perspective, you need somebody who's got that type of personality that cares and is compassionate, but can take the hard knock. But that can also be perceptive enough as well. I don't think I'm a big, but I know I'm not a big fan of the matrix of make 40 calls, and because it just sort of ticks a box. Sure. What I'd rather have is show me some meaningful conversations that you're having throughout the day. Show me some meaningful, so show me the outcome, and you can get that outcome. Anybody who's honed their skill can make a few calls, but can get some great results. So that's an SDR, but then it's a different skill set that you'd be looking for from an AE to a BDM to a VP of sales, etc. Those skills shift slightly, but I would 100%, 110% agree with Rocky that you must always be mindful, no matter where you are on the stack, on the ladder, of your pipeline. Keep feeding that pipeline. Don't rely on somebody else to do it for you. Get on it yourself as well.
Thank you so much. I think that your answers for me was extremely valuable. I know that we have already run out of the time, but I have at least one question from the audience for you guys, because I don't have any other chance to commit you for the next 15 minutes, because you will give me a great big check for that if you will ask me for the more time. I don't know. So question is, if your advice, what is your advice for the young sales manager from the CE region who are trying to build a career from scratch? So what you will be top first maybe advice for them? Just imagine people that trying to step in with these shoes and just trying to start with your career. So your advice.
Wow. Rokky, do you want to?
Well, I guess I didn't know if there was a region in there. Did you mention, Yuri? I might have missed that, but
Eastern Europe.
Excuse me.
So it's Eastern Europe.
Yeah. So I guess in trying to break into a U.S. market or UK market, whatever. I don't know if it's going to be more. My answer is more company based rather than, well, it's individual as well. I would first say you got to understand yourself, and this goes back to some of the discussions we had earlier about knowing your personality, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and so how you can tailor your personality to fit your approach. So your approach is important. But secondly, I think it's more about understanding your audience, your customers, understanding what your unique selling proposition is, unique value, whatever you want to call it, EVP, UVP. I hear it all the time. Whatever. Understanding that, be able to live it, live, sleep, and dream about it, and just knowing how your service or your product or whatever it is can change. Or help align with the business goals of the people you're dealing with, and if you could do that with sincerity and with realism, and I don't care if that means not knowing all the answers to questions, but you're being able to be a resource to who you're dealing with. At the end of the day, I think you can be successful. And back to the comments that Ian and I just said. You got to keep growing your pipeline no matter what level you're at. You got to keep growing your pipeline. You can't take some time off because you just feel like you're getting tired of being told no. You got to keep your chin up and have the resiliency to keep plugging. I said this morning it happened to me. I still get told no a lot. I woke up this morning to an email from a group that I've been dealing with now for about 2-3 months with, hey, we the RFQ, we like your RFQ, and we're going to proceed. We're going to proceed down the path in the proposal with you. Honestly, guys, made my day. I was excited about it. I'm still excited about it today.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm still excited about it, and I still have a passion for this. So yeah. I know maybe I talked too much about passion today, but if you're not passionate about sales. If you're not, you won't be successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really fake it. In sales, you can't really fake it. You gotta have the passion for it. And if you do, you can take some no's. You can take some no's and no, not today. Because when you get, like this morning, when you get the yes, it makes you it makes you feel so good. It makes you just wanna. I've had a great day today just because of that. So
yeah.
Thank you.
And my advice to this individual, I don't know enough about the dynamic of the question that I'd like to know more, but they're alluding to the fact that they're now in a sales management role. So that sort of suggests to me that they may have a team that they're trying to build around them. And what I would say is this: look, lead by example. Yeah. Lead by example. Roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. Do not start to think that, because you've gone into a more elevated role, that makes you sort of not worthy of doing certain tasks. But also ask why, not just of yourself and your colleagues, but also of the organization. Help the organization. Rokky said, we're in a period now of very much of change, where we've all had to do different things as individuals, as organizations, but don't be afraid to just ask why. So if the organization is doing something which doesn't align with your sales process, or they're doing something that they've always done, maybe just, you know, put your hand up and say, hey,
ask questions.
Why are we doing that? You know?
Yeah, good point, Ian. Good point.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for your time, guys. So like it was, for me, it was very gold and unique time, and you know, your answers was very useful to have. You know, I can continue this conversation for next hour, but not not this time. Maybe next time. Thank you so much.
Next time.
Yeah, let's maybe keep in touch, and I think that your answers is very useful to have, and maybe to know about exactly what we need to stand for this sales and closure stage for US and UK. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, have a nice day, evening.
Yeah,
thanks, Yuri. Nice talking to you again, Yuri and Ian. Keep in touch, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri. Thanks, Rokky. Real pleasure. Great event, and I hope everybody got something from it. So,
yeah, for sure. Keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.